Everybody, it's Tuesday, January 13th, 2009. Thanks for stopping by. Now, when I came back from Turkey, I said the trip back was 11 and a half hours. That wasn't quite right. The flight over the Atlantic was 11 and a half hours. The whole thing took, it seemed like forever. I have no idea, because it's such a big time difference when you get back home, and it seemed like it was daytime forever because we were going with the sun over the Atlantic Ocean, and we passed almost to the North Pole. We passed by Iceland, or maybe it was Greenland. I get them confused. So, no offense to you people in Iceland and Greenland, but it was 11 and a half hours on that airplane. And the guy behind me, okay, now this was Turk Hava Yollara, or Turkish Airlines. All the flight crew, most of the passengers were Turkish, or maybe 99% of the passengers were Turkish, or 95%. But I was sitting close to the front, and there was a guy sitting behind me, and beside him there was an American. And the guy sitting behind me was Ethiopian. And as soon as the flight started, the American began his speech. And he spoke for about 11 and a half hours off and on, and said the most incredible things, the most offensive things you could imagine anybody saying on a airplane full of Muslim people from Turkey. He started off by saying that in the Middle East you don't have any good media. All you have is Al Jazeera, and Al Jazeera isn't really the news, and the reason it's not really news is because they don't tell Israel's side of the story. So that's not news. He said fair and balanced, right? Like Fox News. Fox News. You need something like Fox News. And the guy was like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah. That's nice. Which he continued to do for the rest of the flight, by the way. So this guy, and the guy sounds kind of rude when he's talking. I don't know if he thought that the other guy didn't understand him or couldn't hear him or something, but he was practically yelling the whole time. And he went on to praise Israel in so many different ways and talk about, what's wrong with the Palestinians? Why are they so bad? What's wrong with them? Why do they have to destroy everything? For instance, why did the Palestinians have to destroy Lebanon? He couldn't understand that. And then he went on to say that there were no democracies, no Muslim or Arab democracies in the world. And why is that? Why couldn't Muslims or Arabs be democratic? What was wrong with them? And the guy's like, oh, I don't know. That's a good point. He said that he had, now I think he was a Christian. I'm not sure about that, but I think he was a Christian because he said his son lived in Israel, and he visited his son a lot, and he thought it was really neat that his son didn't really have a job. He sits around and reads the Bible all day, every day. And he thought that was pretty cool, that there were a lot of people like that didn't really work. They didn't really have any money or anything. They just sat around and read the Bible. In other words, they're religious zealots or fanatics. And that's pretty cool. And he went on to say that apartheid was a good thing. And, I really smiled when he said that because I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming because it always comes. When you get on this subject and you start saying these types of things, the next thing they're going to say is, why couldn't those black people in Africa realize what a good deal they were getting when they weren't in control of anything? You know, why did they have to mess everything up by getting civil rights? You know, and dragging the country down into their savagery. And, you know, he's telling this to an Ethiopian, okay? I couldn't believe it, you know. But he was telling this to an Ethiopian, and the Ethiopian was saying, yeah, that's nice. You're right, I agree. They should have kept those savages in their place. You know, and, you know, at some point, I put on the earphones because my blood was boiling. And I wanted to tell this guy so bad, you know, a few things, but I didn't. I didn't say anything to him. And I had the earphones on, and I felt something all of a sudden. I looked down at my arm, and the guy's foot was right here on my arm. You know, he was resting his foot on my arm, and from between the seats, somehow he wedged it in there, and his foot's sitting right here on my forearm. You know, like, and I looked at him, and he just left it there for a second, and then I turned around and gave him the meanest look I could possibly, or the least mean look actually that I could give him, because I really wanted to, you know, say something to the guy. And after I looked at him, he pulled his foot back finally, and then I noticed a little bit later on that he had his other foot jammed up onto the other armrest. And so I guess my wife, she was sitting there. I guess she at one point had his foot on her until, you know, he took it away. I don't know, but so the guy keeps talking and keeps talking, and he's just saying just horrible things. And at one point, I remember he was talking about how his son was so great because he never did anything but read the Bible. And he said, you know, like, you sit around and read the Quran all day. Talking to the Ethiopian. And the Ethiopian told him, you know, no, I'm a Christian. I don't read the Quran. And he said, oh, so have you had any trouble with them Muslims? And the Ethiopian says, no, it's no problem. Everybody gets along, you know, it's all okay. And he said, yeah, that's the way it always starts, isn't it? And then he said, you just wait until those Muslims get into control and see what happens then. And, I mean, that's amazing that somebody to say that surrounded by like 200 Muslims. And, you know, nobody said anything to him. Nobody even looked at him. Nobody got mad at him. And he's saying this where half the people on the plane could hear. I mean, he's practically yelling. So there's no way that people didn't hear it, because I couldn't help but hear it. Even with my earphones on, I could still hear him. And when the fight, you know, and he said so many other things that I can't even remember everything he said. This is 11 hours of this, okay? 11 hours of just abject bigotry and condemnation of all the, you know, dusky colored people of the world. Anyone who's not, you know, white and Christian. That's very important. And, you know, he, at the end of the flight, and this is an old guy, he couldn't get his backpack on. And so, at the end of the flight, the Ethiopian and a couple of other Muslims helped him to put his things on and helped him off the plane. You know, after 11 hours of him telling them how great Israel was. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that happening? It was pretty funny. But anyway, thanks for watching.